Aaron Comas is a drummer based in Brooklyn, New York, and he is most notably known for his work with the rock band The Spin Doctors, which have been active for how many years now?
Believe it or not, it's going to be 30 years
oh
this
my goodness,
October.
30 years. And believe it or not, Turn It Upside Down by The Spin Doctors was the first CD I ever bought with my own money.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you very much.
Yeah. It was, I fell in love with the album previous to that. I can't remember the name right now.
Pocket Full of Kryptonite.
Pocket Full of Kryptonite. Yeah. And I listened to that over and over and over. So when I had money, I got that BMG membership, 10 CDs.
Oh, yeah.
So I got
That's
Turn
right.
It Upside Down. That was the one that I bought for $18 or something at the time. But anyway.
Oh, that's cool.
Enough
that's
about
great.
me.
Well, thank you. Thanks for buying it.
Yeah, sure. So, Aaron, why don't you talk about what you've done, not only with the Spin Doctors, but you've had a long career. You've been playing drums as a musician for 30 years now, beyond 30 years, and I'm sure most of us just don't know what you're doing outside of the Spin Doctors. So let's talk about
Well, okay. I mean, there's been a lot of different things over the years. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I started out, playing out of books like this, rudimentary drumming, and my first teachers taught me how to hold my sticks like this. So that's why I played traditional, because basically day one I walked in there and he said, hold this one like a hammer. That was easy. And then when he showed me this, it was just, I was 9 years old and it just feels like totally weird. But I stuck with it and, I love it. And that's the only reason that I played traditional grip really, is because my very first teacher, Jack Iden, that's how he showed me how to hold the sticks. And I like it. I'm glad that I do, because so many of my favorite drummers, play that way. It's just, I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. So, growing up in Dallas, I had a lot of great teachers there. I was really lucky there was a really good music program going on in the Dallas school district, back then. And I went to a really great high school called the Arts Magnet High School. And so half the day I was playing, in big band and small group and music theory, and it was great. So I had this whole collective of friends in Dallas, which I still do, great musicians. And we would basically, jam after school and jam on the weekends. And there's just a ton of great musicians down there and a lot of people who've gone on to do all kinds of great stuff. Anyway, so then I moved up to Berkeley, did a year at Berkeley, which was great. That was the year I kind of practiced 10 hours a day, just lived in the practice room. It really did a lot for me. I really, developed good discipline for practice, which has stuck with me to this day. I think practice is a really important thing, and it's good to have some discipline and have a routine with it. So that's when I always practiced even in high school and studied and took lessons and worked really hard. But it was that year that I was I think things really changed, because, that's the beauty of going away to college or graduating high school and having that opportunity to not have to work a real job and just focus, live and breathe the stuff. And it really can change. I think you can really change the way you play, anything, when you put a ton of time into it, you can see massive changes. So that 1 year at Berkeley was the year that I think I really got my stuff together a lot. It changed the way I played. Then I moved back to Dallas for a year, and I just played in a bunch of different bands and did pretty much every gig under the sun, from jazz bands, rock bands, blues bands, wedding gigs, you name it, I did it. And then I decided I wanted to move to New York. I always knew that I either wanted to be in LA or New York. And I was just kind of attracted to New York. I liked the vibe here. A lot of the records I, grew up listening to, particularly the jazz records, I'd look on it and see so much of the stuff was going on here. And I'd been here a few times from, when I went to Berkeley, I'd take a bus down and check out the city. And anyway, I heard about the new school. Actually, Roy Hargrove, the trumpet player, who I went to high school with Roy. And that year that I was back in town, in between Berkeley and New York, we did a lot of gigs together. And we were driving up to Denton to do a gig one night, and he handed me he knew I was telling him that I was thinking about going to New York City. And he handed me this pamphlet. He's like, man, I heard about this place, the New School. They're starting a jazz program there. So that's how I heard about it. So I came up here and I auditioned, and this great saxophone player teacher named Artie Lawrence was the head of the school. And I auditioned for him. And it was a great audition. I basically did the playing part of it. Everything was cool. And then he said, okay, cool. Come on up to my office and for the interview section. And so he looks me in the eye and he said, you really want to deal with this bullshit? And I said, yep. He said, you're in the school. It was great, you know. Of course, I had no idea what he was talking about. I was 19 years old,
Right.
you know. Of course, now I get it, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was great. I moved up to New York. This guy was incredible. He was like a real mentor, and I turned out doing a lot of gigs with Arnie. And once the Spin Doctors got together, he would play a lot of shows with us. And anyway, at the time, there was just a great group of people at the new school. I met the guys in the Spin Doctors there, Eric and Chris, and you know John Popper from Blues Traveler was there. And then you had Brad Meldau was there, and Larry Goldings, and Peter Bernstein, and just a ton of like, you know, incredible musicians. And, you know, so many of them have gone on to, you know, do great stuff and are active. And it was just a really cool environment. And there was none of this kind of like, you know, like, because we were like the rock band at school. We were like, you know, and I was playing jazz too. I was always doing all the jazz stuff, but I was also in this rock band. We were gigging around town, and we would rehearse up at the school. And there was, you know, you often find in like the jazz school world that like people are very snobbish, and the jazzers don't want to hang out with the rock guys, and the rock guys don't want to hang out with the jazz guys. And you felt a little bit of that at Berkeley. Although I was also the guy at Berkeley that was like, you know, I'd be doing like a jazz session, a blues session, like a heavy metal session. You know, this is like 1986. I went there. And I always just ignored all that stuff. I was like, listen, I'm into everything. I'm going to do everything. If you don't like it, I don't care. This is who I am. But I found at the new school, everybody there was just so open-minded. And, you know, like Brad Meldau, I mean, he would come out to our gigs, and I remember him saying, like, how much he liked the Allman Brothers, and he dug our band. And same thing with Peter Bernstein and Larry Goldings. It was just a great environment. And anyway, to make a long story short, we started playing all over New York, and we took like kind of the opposite approach to most bands at the time, which was everybody wanted to get a record deal. Everybody would rehearse 5 nights a week and try to get like a big showcase and get a record deal. And that was the goal. And for us, we just totally flipped it. Our goal was basically we wanted to like write songs. We wanted to be a really great band. We wanted to be unique and do our own thing. And we wanted to get gigs and pay our rent, playing our own music. That was pretty much it. And so we decided, like, rather than rehearsing 5 nights a week, let's try to play 5 nights a week. So we just played everywhere in New York. We used to call it the Tour of Manhattan, because we just gigged and gigged and gigged, and there was a lot of different clubs that we could play at. And we kind of had our core spots, but we're always trying different places. And everybody was always like, well, you know, there's all these rules, which they still have, like, well, if you play here, you can't play anywhere in town for 2 weeks beforehand. And we would just be like, okay. We'd be playing down the street the next night, you know. It's like ridiculous. Like, how are we supposed to make a living, you know, playing one? So we just ignored all that. And you know, the cool thing is because we were doing it so much, it was a couple things happened. For one, it was like the greatest way to develop our sound and our music, because let's face it, nothing beats playing in a group in front of people. I mean, rehearsing is great, and that's key as well. Practice is great, but there's something that happens when you're actually on stage in front of an audience that doesn't happen in the rehearsal room. And so we really developed our sound fully from just playing night after night. And we would play 3 hours. You know, it wasn't like now where you get a 45-minute set. We played places where we could play the whole night. So we might do a set at, like, we play this place, the Nightingale Bar on 2nd Avenue. It's kind of our home turf. We'd go on at 10. We'd play till like 11:30 or 12. We'd take a break, and then we'd play till 2. Sometimes we'd do a third set. Like on weekends, we would do like the classic third set, and we'd play till 4 in the morning.
Wow.
So we'd literally play like 5-hour gigs. You know, it was great. And, you know, we got really good doing that, and we developed a voice of our own sound. And as a drummer, it was a great opportunity to be in my own creative band where we could pretty much do what we wanted to do and kind of develop my own sound. So that was great. And through that, we, you know, just based on getting a big fan base, we got the record companies started coming, and we got a record deal. And anyway, so based on like just the constant gigging, and we built up a really big fan base in town. Eventually it just became like this undeniable thing, and, you know, management and record companies started approaching us, and we were very standoffish because we were a very self-sufficient band, and we didn't want anybody to come in and fuck with us. Eventually we found a manager we liked, and he got us a record deal, and blah, 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 it went on. Obviously, it took a long time. You know, we did a live record. We put out the first record to really kind of silence, you know. But we kept touring, and eventually, you know, sparked some interest about a year and a half in, and then things, you know, kind of blew up, and went where they went.
Yeah, you were totally in the right place at the right time. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a good time. I mean, that era was a good time for bands, and for the music. The music business was really thriving. You know, CDs were like only 3 or 4 years old, so the record companies had a ton of money because they were. You know, they were selling cassette CDs. They were still selling vinyl. People were going back and buying their favorite records from the old days, you know, on CD again. So as hard as it was, and it was really hard, there was that opportunity, you know, to, if you could get to that point where you could get that support. And we had to really fight for it. I mean, our record company was not really behind us at all. They did pretty much nothing. And in fact, they were like, after about a year, they were like, you know, come back and this record's dead, you know, make a new record. And we were like, you know, listen, we're out here on the road with absolutely no help from you. We're making a living. We're packing like clubs around the country. 400 or 500 people are coming out. There's a buzz. So we decided to just go back on the road and push it. We had this weird feeling. We could feel something was brewing, you know, and that's what we did. And then a spark came out, and the record company decided, okay, this is worth it. And they put some money behind it, and boom, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was cool. And then, you know, to go back to your original question is, you know, from there, obviously that pretty much took me through most of the 90s. I mean, the Spin Doctors was, I'd come to town and I'd do gigs around town. I'd always do jazz gigs and blues gigs and stuff like that when I was in town with people. But for the most part, the Spin Doctors took up, you know, pretty much all my time, you know, in the 90s. And then once we got to the end of the 90s, you know, the record sales declined. We weren't that like hot top 10 band anymore. And at that point we had lost, like, our guitar player wasn't with us anymore. And, you know, it was just it just felt kind of like it's a good time to, like, let's give this a little break for a while and give us the opportunity individually to kind of do some other stuff, which we all wanted to do. And so I started to get into, you know, I built a studio in my apartment, and I started to get into producing, and I started to get into playing on other people's records. And I really wanted to put myself out there as a guy that can do sessions and play with other people as a sideman, because that's something I always really, you know, I was always kind of like, growing up, I was just as interested in being a jazz guy as I was being like a studio guy, as I was being in a rock band. And when I came here, I was, all those three things were kind of like I wanted to do. And I figured, you know, I want to be prepared for whatever opportunity came to me. And I made a decision after, you know, being in the Spin Doctors for a while. I was like, this seems pretty cool. I'm going to, like, give this like a year or two and see if it, you know, I felt it's smart to, like, in your career, I think, to, like, sometimes you got to make the right decision. If you feel like something's a good opportunity and it's working for you creatively, which is the most important thing, to go for it, so I made that decision with the Spin Doctors, and obviously it worked out great. So here we are at the end of the 90s, and we're kind of like not really split up, but we're not active anymore for a while. And so it was great, you know. But I had to kind of like prove myself to a lot of people, because I already had a good reputation as a drummer around New York. But, you know, I think people thought of me as like, oh yeah, he's in that band, you know. And I mean, a lot of different things, like maybe he sounds great with them, and maybe he can't do this. Or I had a lot of people telling me, like, you know, they thought I'd charge too much money. You know, he's in this popular band, we can't afford him. He's gonna, you know, all kinds of silly stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I'd have people come up to me saying, like, man, you know, we spent like 10 hours trying to get your snare sound, you know, that sound you got on that record. And I'm like, dude, just call me, you know, it's right here, you know, you can spend all day, you know. So I think there was a lot of things that I had to kind of get out there. Like, one, okay, I can play, I'm versatile. Two, like, you know, I'm not going to charge you $1 million just because I, you know, come from a well-known band. And then it was great, you know, and it took a minute, to be honest. But you know, after kind of doing that, all of a sudden, you know, you get the reputation. Okay, well, this guy can do this, and you know, here we are down the road where I'm very active, you know, as a sideman and session guy. And we got the band back together. You know, shortly after that, like, I don't know, around 2001, we started to get the original guys back together, and we kind of started playing some gigs. And, you know, it's gotten back to the point where we've made 3 more records, and we do probably 30 to 40 shows a year, and it's just great. You know, the band sounds killer. Everybody's playing as good as ever. I think you saw us out in California, right?
In Phoenix, yeah. You played at the Ostrich Festival here, because that's a weird thing that happens here. But yeah, I grew up in New York, and I remember hearing an interview with you on the radio, and you said, I'm really a jazz player playing in a rock band, but I like playing rock music or something like that. And that actually,
Yeah.
that stuck with me ever since I was a kid. And,
Oh, that's cool.
and then to hear, when I got to see you for the first time live last year at the Ostrich Festival, I couldn't believe how good you guys were. And some other bands were playing, and I was like, wow, the Spin Doctors actually kept it together. Some of these other bands that played that had been around a long time, they were falling apart. And my friend who has done some work for some of these bands, he's like, Spin Doctors killed it. You guys were you guys are on top of it.
You.
It was an awesome show.
Thank you. Well, that's why I still love doing the band. It's because, it's really like, for one, it's like all 4 original members.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bands that still have that. And like all 4 of us are, we're lifers. We're like, everybody's completely dedicated to their craft. People practice, they're busy. And when we get together, there's a sound. And we don't fuck around. I mean, as you can see, we get up there and we play. It's like we don't go up there. We're not just up there trying to get paid. I mean, it's like, if you come see us, we're gonna do it. And if that wasn't the vibe, I wouldn't even think about doing it anymore, because it's like, I see a lot of these bands like you're talking about, and it's maybe like one guy left in the band or something, and a bunch of side guys, and they're just going through the motions. There's a lot of great bands. Listen, I realize that it's hard to keep a band together.
Of course.
There's plenty of bands, and a lot of them sound great. But you definitely see the bands that are just out there to collect a check. And I get it. I get, you got to make a living. But, like, for me, I can't. I mean, sure, I got to make a living too. But, like, I'm not going to do anything that doesn't feel. For me, it's got to feel, like, good and creative. And, like, I'm getting satisfaction out of it. Or I'll just get depressed. I just can't do that kind of thing. Having followed you on Instagram for a while, I've seen you post this stick control book and videos of you like using a metronome, hitting your practice pad, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. This guy who's been playing probably 40 years has kept up a practice regimen, and that's been important to him. And then to see, actually, why don't you? My book's right here. I mean, you're absolutely right. I appreciate that. I mean, I definitely listen. I started taking lessons again 5 years ago from Michael Carvin, and it's like it's very important. As the older you get, and the more that you are busy, it's very easy to you got to do things so you don't get into a rut. I mean, and I'm very to me, it's just a never-ending kind of thing, I mean, to continue to get better and expand, the way I play and have my style. I don't want to play the same way I played 20 years ago now or 10 years ago. The cool thing is you got all that stuff. I got all the things I've done and all the styles and my own little language, but you don't want to just stop and be like, okay, that's what I do. You want to have all that, but the idea is to keep adding to it. And so, I've been really focused on that. And as far as practicing, I mean, I always have my trusty, reflex pad here by my kitchen, and I have all my books, a bunch of books I love to go through. This is one that and I got them dated. I mean, this is crazy. I used to do this shit. Look at this. This is my old May '83. I mean, and I opened these books up a while ago, and I'm like, holy! I don't even know how I did it back then, but it's been cool to go back to them and and we go through these things. So I make a point to, to go through this stuff. Here, I'll give you a little taste of like this one here. This is great. I'm sitting down, so it might be kind of weird, but 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I love doing every day. I try to spend some time out of these books and just, concert snare drum reading, and then I got the where's the other one here? Well, of course, my favorite is syncopation. A million ways to do syncopation. I go through that every day, and there's just tons of. Where's my other favorite? Portraits in Rhythm. Oh, this is the one that I love. Old rudiment, it's like a rudimentary,
marching snare.
And so anyway, I try to spend like a little bit of time every day on the just on the practice pad doing rudiments and reading. I find that it really helps me to focus, and I forgot I should have put this on, but I love this thing. It's an old Dr. B.
Yeah, how old is that?
Well, I used to have one of these when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And they keep breaking, but I just keep buying them on eBay. This is probably like the 10th one I buy. Whenever one breaks, I just go on eBay and I find them. They're out there, and I buy them.
Hey,
and
your apartment's sinking again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And I don't know. There's something about it. Like maybe it's like just reminded me of like when I was 12 practicing, but just for like the home practice, I just love it.
Yeah.
So I always do like, a little, even if it's 10 minutes, because I walk past this thing every day. So even if I just sit there and do that. And then I try to, depending on my schedule, I have a recording studio and my drums are always set up. And if I'm free and there's not a session in there, then I try to go in and practice. And I've been really into that lately. And I've been getting back into all kinds of crazy books. There's a million ways to do syncopation. And I recently just went back to this book that I did when I was like 20 by a guy named Pete McAdini, great drummer. The original book is called Polysymbol Time, and I think now it's reissued as Polyrhythms for the Drum Set, I think. But this is an amazing book, and it really opened. I'm really into if you're listening to my music or come see my own band live, I do a lot of weird rhythmical stuff. And I've always been really into that. And this was the book that really kind of opened my eyes to that. It's very much, metric modulation and four-way independence, but with doing things with the time. Mm-hmm. And so I went back through this book, man, and I was like, wow, it took me a minute, you got to really, but it's fun to go in and I think that when you practice, I like to work on stuff that I can't do. I always think if you sound like shit when you're practicing, then you're making progress. and if you're in there and you're just sounding great, anybody can go in. I can play all my best stuff and feeling like $1 million, but I'll save that for the gig. You know what I mean? That's what you do when you're in the gig. But when you're practicing, at least for me, I feel like I want to work on things that I really even can't do. From a technical standpoint, go in there and start something up that you can't do. And sometimes it takes a minute, but then an hour in, all of a sudden you got it. And if you repetitive motion, you do it, and then bam, you got it. And then you can bust it out. It's all about, having these tools to when you're improvising, they're there for you. And so that's kind of my concept with practice is I like to divide it up between, the snare drum reading stuff, warm up, hands, and then do all kinds of different books and technical exercises with four-way independence and time. And then if I have time, I'll spend some time with just, if there's some ideas that I've been working on or some of my own concepts with different beats or improvisation but I find that the main thing that I do in the practice is working on technique stuff that is kind of either things that have been giving me a hard time or just things that I can't do.
Yeah, so what does an expert professional drummer like you, what do you do taking lessons? Like, what do you focus on? It's for some people, including myself, I see a drummer like you, I listen to your new album, I'm like, man, this guy's incredible. And then I think there's this kind of mentality that once you're a professional, you don't need lessons anymore or something. So what are you taking lessons on?
Well, I mean, think about it. You often hear about like actors, going back and they're always studying. No how old they are. You always hear, I'm going to an acting class, or I have my acting coach, and many times you hear it with vocalists too. They're always working on. I got my, because it's an instrument. You got to like, and basketball players, professional, the top level guys, they're in practice, and there's coaches, and somehow musicians think they can just like get good and then they're done, and that's okay. I mean, like anything, you get very busy, and I think for me, I was so lucky to have so many great teachers, my whole youth up until like my early 20s. And I've always, taken a lesson here or a lesson there from like drummers, but I don't know, about 5 years ago, I was kind of like, I just felt like I needed a fresh kick in the ass. And I'd been so busy, you get, when you get busy running from gig to gig, I was doing so many gigs, and I started to notice that there was some weird technique things. I was looking at my hands. I'm like, wow, what the hell am I doing? Not that I really care so much about like technique. I mean, the main thing to me is like I kind of feel like you can do whatever you want to get the sound out of the drums, to express yourself. Whatever it takes is fine. But with that said, when I practice, I do like to. I think like in practice, I like to focus on my technique. And when I get to the gig, whatever, when I'm in the studio recording or I'm on a gig making music, I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to think about what I've been practicing. I don't want to think about my hair. It's all about making music. That's the thing. But by having that discipline and practice, it carries over, So I was feeling just kind of burnt out, and I'm like running around like, gig. And I just kind of felt like I just wanted like some kind of, I thought it'd be great to take some lessons again. Let's see what happens. Maybe I can kind of shape up some of this technique stuff some of these bad habits I'm noticing. Maybe I can get some help just to rein them in, and let's just see what happens. I didn't really even know, because I know how to work on my technique. I know what I need to work out. I'm good at picking up books. I'm smart about knowing like this is what I need to work on. This is what I'm going to do. But so I started asking around New York. I started asking like tons of people. Hey man, this was when I was 45, so right around there. I'm going to be 50 in April. This is about 5 years ago or so. I started asking people, hey man, I really want to take lessons. Any suggestions? And the guy's name that kept coming up was Michael Carvin. Michael is a great teacher and an amazing drummer too. Incredible. He played with all kinds of people. I mean, if you go on YouTube and press in Michael Carvin with Freddie Hubbard, there's this clip that's just, I mean, he's as good as anybody. He's just incredible. And but he's also an incredible teacher. So his name kept coming up. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, So actually, Dave Sokol, who is the guy that runs, there's a rehearsal studio here called Euphoria Studios, which is kind of like the place, the best place in town. And Dave was a big fan of Carvin's and had studied with him, and so he's the guy that finally, put me in touch with him. And I just called him up and I said, hey man, he asked me, well, what do you want to do? Why are you calling me? And I said, well, I'm like in my mid 40s, and I've been playing professionally for 25. 30 years now, and I just want to take things to the next level, and I want to keep learning. And so he was like, well, you're really smart, that's a good attitude, So we had a short little conversation, and then we went to the lesson. I met him at his place, and I go in there, and he's known for kind of just ripping people apart on the first lesson. And a lot of people don't go back. I've talked to people that have gone to this guy and they were offended and I couldn't believe the shit he said to me, and I'll never go back again. But then the other 50% walk away and are just like, this guy was unbelievable, and that he changed my life. He changed my playing, he changed my life, my perspective. And so he definitely ripped me apart. I mean, I kind of expected it, but I wasn't really sure. He didn't give a fuck that I was in the Spin Doctors, that I played on this record or that record, or it doesn't matter. He didn't care. At least then he didn't. So the first lesson, he was just pretty much like, you got no sound. He just beat me down, and I took it well. And I was like, okay, cool. Whatever. Great. And I took it and I went back. And it ended up being this great thing. And now, he's got a lot of respect for me, and he's very he now, if anything, he gives me even more confidence, which is great. But you don't want to go into a teacher and have him tell you you're the greatest thing in the world from the get-go. You got to get somewhere.
That's right.
But he's been very good, and I think at first it started out kind of with some technique stuff. He got me back into like going through syncopation and the Chapin book. I went through the Chapin book again, which I hadn't done in probably 25 years. You know the book I'm talking about, the Jim Chapin book?
No, I don't know it.
Everybody, I mean, it's kind of like one of the Bibles for drum set. You should get it. You should definitely get it.
I only play drums recreationally, so yeah, that's.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, anybody listening, if you're a drummer and you want to, it's one of the books that's kind of a must.
That's awesome.
Go through. Cool. And I went through it, really young, and anyway, so he got me to go back through some of these things that I hadn't done in a while, and that kind of inspired me to pull out all these old books that I showed you before, and but the main thing he did was kind of like just really help inspire me and help push me to do things that I hadn't done. Like he's like, you got to try to get out of your comfort zone. Obviously, we all know you can do this, you can do that. You got this gig, you got that gig. Everything's cool, but like, let's do something where you're gonna like get out of your comfort zone. Let's do something that you're not good at, that you don't feel comfortable with. So he was very encouraging me to like. He's like, what, you should start. You have a lot to offer. Why don't you start doing some drum clinics? I'd never done that before. I always shied away from it because I didn't really want to like get in front of a crowd of people and have to talk and have to do that. And so he really pushed that. And at first I was like, I don't know, that's never really been my thing, But anyway, I took his advice, and I did one. This is about 5 years ago. I did one. I think the first one I did was up on the Drummers Collective, and I actually just did another one there last week. And since then I've done quite a few of them, and I love it now. It was really like, I think I learned a lot about it because for one, when you have to sit there and talk about yourself or about music, especially when you have to actually demonstrate things, you learn a lot yourself, And anyway, the main thing was it was just an example of something that wasn't necessarily in my comfort zone that I did. And when you do that kind of stuff, it just opens up all kinds of other possibilities, I had already started making my own records and doing my own band, but I've obviously kept that going and done, I play regularly with my group. I have a couple different groups that I do of my own. And it's really been great to, for all these years doing Spin Doctors and playing on people's records and playing with other artists like Joan Osborne and all these people, which I love doing. I love it. But, to have your own group is kind of the ultimate thing. It's something that represents me 100%. It's my music. It's my concept. I use players that I want to bring into that I work well with. And it's just been great. It's just been such a great creative outlet for me to make these records and do these shows. And I don't look at it as like for me, it's just 100% creative. I mean, there's all the stuff I do is creative, but obviously as a, career musician, obviously the reality is you got to make money. And, you look at the different things that I have going now. That's taken me a long time to get to. I mean, I'm luckily 30 years into New York. I got my band Spin Doctors, which are up and running very well these days, and I got like my sideman stuff. Working with people like Joan Osborne, and I play with this great artist in Germany named Marius Westernhagen, who's a big star over there, and all these James Maddock and a lot of the different groups that I play drums for, and doing records with people and having my studio, and then I've got my own music, And obviously, these other things pay the bills. I usually lose money with my band. I mean,
right.
But I don't care. It's like that's part of the whole portfolio, as they say.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna make some gigs. You're gonna make a lot of money. Some gigs you're gonna make a little money, and some gigs you might lose money. As long as it balances out. But it's very important to. I think it's always a bad idea to base all your decisions on money. I mean, I've always tried to base everything I do on creativity and being fulfilled. And anytime I've ever taken something that felt like it was just for the money, or I think it just never felt right. And one of the things that I've actually learned how to say no. I mean, I used, drummers, musicians, we don't know the word no, man. It's like, hey, can you play Tuesday night? Okay.
Yeah.
I think for a while, like when I first started seeing Carmen, I think I was just running around like crazy. I didn't want to say no to anything. And it was cool because we all want to be really busy, and I'm really grateful. And you have, sometimes it's like the more you're out there, the more you stay busy, the more gigs you get. And that's part of it. But it's also important. You can also wake up, which is what happened to me. Waking up was overloaded. And, oh my God, I got 10 sets of music I got to learn. And I got this gig and I got, it can get a little like distracting. And so I've realized like I've learned how to like say no to stuff. I really try to like, I just realized no is not a bad word, and it's actually healthy. Don't put yourself in a situation that's going to run you down, or that's not going to really be creatively fulfilling for you, and you don't want to be out there playing stuff that's not good either, because people see that,
Yeah. So,
you know what I mean? It's like,
speaking of that, you have so much great music out there available for free on YouTube. And like your performances at the Rockwood Music Hall with Teddy, and I've seen gigs with JoJo Mayer, and I mean you've got all-star lineup sometimes playing with you and your bands, and I was wondering if you could get into some of that and how it's led into your new album, Sculptures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so basically, I started making my own records in 2006. So my first record is a record called Catskills Cry. It's me. I wrote all the music on guitar. A lot of what I write is on guitar. And I got Bill Dillon, who's an amazing guitar player from Canada, who I'd met. He played on a lot of the Robbie Robertson records, and he's just got this vibe. He's like, and I did a record with him in the late '90s with Mark Cohn. And I was like, who is this guitar player? I was like, this guy's unbelievable. And he just stuck with me. And so about, whatever it was, 8-10 years later, when I got around to doing my record, I was like, I got to call this guy. So I called up Bill. I was like, hey, man, I'd love for you to do this record with me. So we worked it out. And then I had an idea to use Tony Levin, who I've always loved. Yeah. And Bill knew Tony. And inside of about an hour, we had the whole thing. It was done. We had it booked. Bill hooked me up with an engineer in Woodstock named Roman Clune, who is now my partner in my studio. We share our recording studio. So it all led back to that record. And it's a great record. I'll always really love that record. It was the first one I did. We never did any gigs because it was just everybody lived in different places, but it was just a really cool, vibey record. And I owe a lot to those guys it's just great. So that was the beginning. And then a few years later, when I decided to do my second record, which is called Beautiful Mistake, I'd always loved Teddy Kumpel. Teddy Kumpel's, Teddy, yep. And incredible musician, guitar player. We've done a lot of playing together over the years. And I knew right away, like, this is the guy I want to have play guitar on my record. And I also knew that I wanted to use Richard Hammond on bass, who's another amazing bass player, really great friend of mine.
He is incredible. I listened to, it was a live album. I think it was a trio, you, Teddy, and Richard. I listened to that yesterday or the day before.
Cool.
I couldn't believe Richard's playing. Like, he is such a melodic player, and he fills in so much. And I couldn't believe it was a trio at times, as I was listening to it. And Teddy is on another planet.
Ted is incredible. Yeah, Rich, we've done so much together. We've both played in Joan Osborne's band for like 11 or 12 years together. We've just done a ton of gigs. Mm-hmm. And we just, you're lucky when you meet everybody, every drummer and bass player. You always have a couple, like as a drummer, there's always a few bass players that you just really gel with. Mm-hmm. And Richard is just one of those guys. It's like we get together, we don't have to say a word to each other. It just happens no matter what kind of music we're playing. So I knew that I wanted to get Teddy and Rich together, and I basically made I write like I said, I wrote most of my music on guitar. So I made demos, and I sent it to those guys, and I was like, listen, I want to make this record. Here's the music. We didn't even rehearse. I was like, learn the music. This is the basic structure. These are the parts. I felt kind of bad because particularly those records, it's very guitar oriented, and there's very specific parts on the melodies sections. The heads of the song, they're very specific, and then there's parts of the songs that are more open. And I can't thank Teddy enough for like putting up with me. I mean, he did such an amazing job of like learning the stuff that I wrote and making it his own, but totally respecting the parts. And I mean, and it was amazing. So I told those guys like, look, we're not going to rehearse. We're doing 2 days, but you got to do your homework. I want to come in like we've all played together, but like we're like a new band, but I want it to sound like we've been playing together for 5 years. And those guys did their homework, man, and we just had a great session. And some really magical moments happened off the floor. And when you get in the studio, you have an idea of what something's going to be. And like the song "Past, Present, and Future," which is one of my favorite songs. It's a song we play live a lot. When we got in there and started playing it, it was like Rich. I had this kind of simple bass line, and Rich came up with this thing, and it just turned into this like. This amazing moment, those are the things that make records so great. When you come in prepared, you have an idea, but then something special happens off the cuff, and then you grab it and work with it. And anyway, so after that record, that was the first time I started doing gigs. We did a record release show, and so it was all of a sudden like, wow, I got a band, we got songs, and so we just started. Ever since then, that trio has been playing, maybe once a month or so around New York, and we go out of town every once in a while, and it's just turned into a great band. And we did another record a few years later called Blues for Use, and then we did that live record that you were talking about.
That waltz track is hysterical, man. That lead melody, I'm like, where did that come from?
Catskills Last Waltz. Yeah, I did. Yeah, actually, I used to have a house up in the Catskills, and I sold it. And I was sitting on the couch, like right before I was getting ready. I was literally about to leave. All the everything was packed up, and I was getting ready to get in my car and say goodbye to the house. And I had my dobro there, and I just wrote that little melody. So I called it Catskills Last Waltz.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of like a monk vibe, It's kind of like I think it was kind of like a Thelonious Monk.
I could see that. Melody, yeah. A lot of kind of like close notes and kind of very chromatic but fun, and I just thought it was a really cool track.
Thank you. So from that, I also did a jazz quintet record with Teddy and Rich, Keith Loftus, who's an incredible sax player, and then Barney McCall, big piano, amazing piano player. We did a record live up at Smoke Jazz Club, and we put that out. And then so I kept all these groups going, and then I started doing this band called the Air Conditioned Gypsies, which is basically just a collective of musicians, and it's all improvisation. And I basically, for a while I was doing it like every 3 months. Now I'm maybe doing it twice a year or so. And I just call different musicians that I want to play with to play. People I try to, think about who's going to play well together. And it's just been great. I've done some great ones. I did a couple double drums with Jojo Mayer. They're on YouTube, like you said. I did a couple with Mark Juliana, both on YouTube. And, those are both, obviously those guys are both incredible, innovative drummers who have influenced me a lot. And so that was great. Vernon Reed's done a bunch of them. Jerry Leonard did some. Ollie Rockberger, John Davis, Richard Hammond, Teddy. I mean, there's a long list of great musicians that have been involved in it. And anyway, so when it came to thinking about making a new record, which is the record that's coming out next Friday, I believe, this March 16th, it's called Sculptures. I wanted to do something a little different. I had made 2 records with Teddy and Rich that were kind of based on my acoustic guitar compositions. It's me sitting around. I write a lot of stuff on acoustic, and that's where those songs came from. And this I wanted to do something different. I'd been experimenting with all the improv stuff, which I've always been into, getting into a little more of the electronic vibe, which brings me to Leon Grunbaum. Who Leon's the guy that I always use on the Air Conditioned Gypsies. Like everybody, I always use different people, but Leon is at every gig. So far, he's been available for everyone I've asked him to do.
And he's the guy who plays that invented instrument, the Samchillion, right?
That's exactly. He plays the Samchillion. You can look it up. It's this crazy thing that he invented, and I just love him. He's just an incredible musician, and he's so creative, and he comes up with such great ideas and sonic sounds. And so I really wanted to bring him into this new record. And so originally the idea was like, let me get together with Leon in my studio and we'll just do some short improvisations. So the record started with just the 2 of us in my studio, and I didn't want to do let's jam for 2 hours and I'll cut and paste. I was like, I kind of came up with some ideas before we'd start. There was a little concept, even if it was just a beat or an idea. And we do these things, and I didn't want any of them to be more than like 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, and some of them were even like 1 or 2 minutes. So we did a whole bunch of that, and that was the start of it. And then I did have a couple songs that I had written on acoustic guitar, but they were a little different, and I recorded those. And I played the guitar on those, the acoustic guitar, which I'd always played a little bit of guitar on my records, but not much. And so that was kind of one section of it. And then so I'm sitting here looking at this. I have these kind of like these cool improvs, and the improvs were great. And usually like we would start off with just me and Leon, and then sometimes Leon would overdub something on top of it. And then ultimately I had a few other people come in and play some stuff, but it was just based on these improvs. So we had the improv section. We had these couple acoustic guitar bass songs that I played. And then we had this part 3, which I hadn't really figured out yet. My friend Ollie Rockberger, who's an amazing piano player, he's just phenomenal. He lived in New York for a long time, but he's from London. He moved back to London about 4 or 5 years ago. And he was in a band called Mr. Barrington for a long time with Zach Danziger and Owen. And I used to play with them in this band, this great songwriter named James Maddock, who I still play with a lot. And he's just always been one of my favorite musicians. And he was like, hey, I'm going to be in town, man. We should, hey, And I was like, shit, and I got to book a session around Ollie. Ollie's coming to town. So I confirmed Ollie, and then I confirmed Leon. And then I played a few times with John Davis, who is, he plays in Jojo Mayer and Nerve. He lives right across the street. You can probably see me. And I really hit it off with him. He filled in for Rich a couple times on our trio gig, which is actually now a quartet because Leon plays. And he did a Gypsies gig, air-conditioned Gypsies gig. And where the music was going for this record, I felt like, yeah, this will be cool. I wanted to do something different. So me and Ollie and John and Leon got together one afternoon. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, shit, what am I going to do? It was like, shit, this is happening in 2 days. And I tend to work good under pressure. I didn't want to just – I knew I wanted it to be improv based, but I didn't want it to just be like, hey, okay, let's go. So the 11th hour, I wrote some ideas. I wrote a couple songs. So I came in there with this kind of like these loose kind of song ideas, about 6 or 7 of them, and we did them. And it was just a really great session. It just clicked really well. And I think out of like those 7, maybe like 4 of them, went on the record. So between those 3 different things, that's how I came up with this record. And then I should mention too that was a guitar player in town named Gray McMurray, who's just incredible. I mean, he's just this totally unique, very ambient style of playing. And so I wanted Gray to come in and just play over everything. So Gray came in, and actually this was before the session with Ollie and John and Leon. So he came and played on all the other stuff, and it was he just did such a great job. He added such a cool vibey element to it. And so I had him, and after that last session, I had him come in and play on that stuff. And so it ended up just being this really cool kind of, vibey, sort of experimental, sort of electronic-y, but still really organic record. And I'm psyched about it. I did this really great video for the song Sculptures that you can see on YouTube. If you just click in Aaron Comas Sculptures, it'll come right out. But check it out. It's these really great guys did it.
Awesome video.
Thank you. I'm really, really psyched. I feel really good about it. I really wanted to do something like, just really nice piece of art to go. That one song I felt was kind of like a special moment for me, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. That song Sculptures, and it was just an improv. It was one of those days when Leon came in, and really it was just based off a rhythm. I kind of had like this kind of triple-y rhythm idea inside of this groove, and really all I said to Leon was like, I just really want you to do like really ambient, weird stuff. I kind of have this rhythmic motif that's going to kind of appear throughout it, and let's just see what happens. And we just did one. It's like that. It's basically just as you hear. There's no editing. There's really no editing at all on the record. Everything as you hear is done. And that song in particular, it just had such a beautiful shape to it. We went back and listened to it. It was like, wow, this is really cool. It has a shape. So we decided, like, Leon, he's doing all this stuff, but it's certainly there's this harmonic element, chords. So I suggested, why don't you play, he gets these great bass sounds on the Samchillian. And then probably about half the record is John on bass, and the other half is Samchillian bass, just real subsonic sounding. It sounds kind of like a Moog or something. So I said, can you figure out, like, the harmony you did and just add, bass to it? So he did that, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I listened to the record, like I said, 5 or 6 times yesterday as I was working. I didn't have any meetings, I'm working from home, and it's this kind of record that Daniel Lanois has an album called Shine, and he designed it so it could just stay on repeat. And I felt like this album is really interesting to listen to. It's short enough that you want to listen to it again right after it's over, and none of the songs are throwaways. Everything is really good, and there's, like you said, there's like 3 different vibes going on, but there's a good mix and blend of it as you listen through the whole thing. So I really love it. I think it's a very creative album. Your drumming is...
I appreciate it.
The drumming is really creative, and I really enjoyed that. And the songs are interesting.
Thank you.
So, great job.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's funny because Daniel Lanois is a really big influence on me, particularly on my solo stuff. I love all his instrumental records. And I listen to them all a lot. Like you said, like the thing that I like about his records I really like music that is really, very much musical and you can listen to, but also it's not like too abrasive. Right. And like, you could almost have it on the background as well. Yeah. That's what I love about all of Daniel Lanois' records. It's like this very moody, vibey thing, but there's like so much music going on, and that's really exactly what I personally tried to go for on this. And I purposely made it short. And really, the bottom line is, I recorded probably about 2 hours of music, and I kept taking stuff out, and at one point the record was 12 songs. I'm trying to figure out the right order, and it just doesn't make sense. But if I pull that song out, all of a sudden it makes sense. And it's hard to let go of songs. But, after doing records for so long with so many people in my home, I take it really seriously. And even though I know a lot of people don't listen to records all the way through, I do. And I make records that are meant to be listened to all the way through. And I don't like long records. I think 37 minutes, like you said, I don't want to hear, you want everything to be strong, right. At least that's the idea, Yeah. So. But I appreciate it. One last thing, going back to the Salt and Sculptures, so the final element of that was that Gray McMurray came in and played guitar on it, and it was really pretty amazing because this was just an improv that me and Leon did, and harmonically it's not crazy, but it's definitely moving around in some weird ways and weird places, and Gray I couldn't believe it. He just somehow he tuned into it and he just played the most beautiful stuff, it was like he was there. And I remember it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in the studio, how he was able to just tune into the thing. And he's really an amazing guitar player. And he added a lot to the vibe of the record for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about you and your music, where's the best place to find that information?
You can go on my website, which is aaroncomas.com. It's got, I recently simplified it, but it's got most of the records I've played on, that's about it. So it's got the video up there, links to my records. The new record's coming out March 16th. It's available anywhere on, easiest place to get it's probably iTunes, or come to my gig and I'll give you a CD. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff.
All right, cool.
And one last thing I'm playing. So I'm doing a record release 50th birthday bash at the Blue Note in New York on April 23rd. It's going to be my band with Teddy, Rich, Ollie Rockberger's flying in from London for it. Keith Loftus, the sax player, is going to be there. So we're going to be doing all my stuff, as well as I have 2 really special guests. James Maddock, who's an incredible songwriter who I've worked with for years, is going to do a few songs, as well as Joan Osborne is also going to be a special guest singing a couple songs. So it's going to be an amazing night.
That's awesome.
So if you're in New York, get your tickets and come out.
All right, cool. Hey, happy 50th birthday. And
Not yet.
almost,
Not yet.
you know. And congratulations on 30 years with the Spin Doctors, and on the
Thank
new
you very
record.
much.
The new record really is awesome. So I'm looking forward to releasing this and telling people about it.
I appreciate it. And where are you in Arizona,
Yep.
right? I'm going to be out there a couple times this year, so I'll hit you up.
Awesome. All right, cool. Thanks so much, Aaron. I appreciate you taking the
Thanks
time.
for having me, man. It was great talking to you.
All right. Have a great day.
All right, take care.
See ya.
Bye.